this is not us. So on behalf of the medical director and the entire team of the Yaba Voice, want to say we sincerely apologize for that break in transmission. We're trying to seriously work on the Zoom. All right, Mrs. Marvins, are you back here? Mrs. Marvins? All right,
yes, I said.
All right, please go on, ma'am. Unmute her, please. Unmute her.
Substance abuse mitigates our mental health. The use of drugs, indiscriminate use of drugs, overdosage of drugs, they are all under substance. Drug like Indian hemp, weed, Colorado, even tramadol, that is, we think is the smallest of it, has a negative impact in our brain because it alters the brain chemistry, whereby making it to work or function abnormally. So substance use is a trigger to affecting our health. Child abuse, rape, children who are in a hostile environment where there's always crisis, like all those people that live where we have all these communal clashes, all this Boko Haram, kidnappings, it brings in fear and anxiety in the heart of an individual. All these things affect our mental and predispose an individual to mental health disorders. I've talk about the cultural differences, status. When you feel the other person is, okay, and it starts from children, adolescent stage, when their self-esteem is, is down, is not being boosted, they look down themselves, and all these issues can trigger or mitigate against our mental health. Death of loved ones, failure, could be business failure, academic failure, it affects mental health negatively. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, ma'am. Once again, we apologize for that breaking transmission. That wasn't us. We are having challenge with our Zoom currently, and they are trying really hard to work on it. We don't know what happened, but please just accept us the way we are, and please kindly listen to our speakers because they had brought their wealth of experience to the fore. Thank you so very much, Mrs. Okeb, for that. And, she had talked to us about stress. Gone are the days when you say children don't experience stress. So everybody's experiencing stress up and down because there's a transfer of stress from father to mother to, the children and every other person like that. And then she now said failure, and for me, again, it's also very significant that we'll look at this concept of failure because your perception about failure is what really matters. What's your perception? Remember what Dr. Akinola started with, our thinking pattern. When the thinking pattern is wrong and you see it as failure means the end of me, then that's the end really. And then you're not able to pick up and do so well. So when you feel it's not the end in itself, but what your thought is about it is what really determine if you would not be able to move on. Thank you so very much for that presentation. Now, Dr. Akinola, what are the barriers to effective mental health? This is our topic when you're talking about your universal human right. What are the barriers to effective mental health care? Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much, moderator. So, I think one of the significant or the greatest barrier to mental health care is lack of information, lack of knowledge, not knowing what to do, what it's all about and where to go. And I think that's one of the reasons why we celebrate World Mental Health Day every year. But like I always say, it's not enough for that year. So if you choose a theme, we have chosen one now for October 10. I think we should all run with it till the next year, and all our activities should center around the theme for that year. So the theme for this year is mental health till the next year, like God's space. Mental health is a universal human right. So what does that mean? That we've all agreed now that we should have good mental health, and we must guard our good mental health at all cost. Because inability to do that can lead to so many things going wrong with that individual's life. So what is human right? So we've defined what mental health is. So human rights these are rights that are legal or moral entitlements that individuals have just by being a human being. And these rights, they are put in place so that there won't be chaos in the community where we live. So basic human rights safeguard and empower people, serving as a moral anchor that cannot be tampered with, that should not and cannot be tampered with. So, and examples of these are, freedom of speech, the ability to be able to vote, you are not discriminated against, access to good medical care. And that's what we're talking about. That no matter what is going on in anybody's life, we all must have, it is our right to be able to have access to a good medical facility if there's anything wrong with our mental or emotional health. And of course, and all these are put in place. We talk about equitable legal proceedings too, and equity, because promoting human rights helps us to promote equity. That means all the resources that are available are shared equally. There are no privileges. So because somebody has a mental health illness, he cannot make decision for himself, does not mean he doesn't have a right to having the right and the appropriate, accessible, affordable, and appropriate medical care when he or she is ill. So human rights put all of us on a level playing field. So this is very important. And that's why we celebrate World Mental Health Day every year. So, like I said earlier on, lack of information, lack of education, not knowing what to do is one of the greatest barriers to accessing treatment. And of course, what are the available facilities? What do we know about all this? So many people don't know. When we talk about mental health, all they say is that, is it that person walking naked on the street? That's all. They don't know even if a child is not doing well in school, a child that has attained, he doesn't wet his bed anymore, and suddenly at age 10, 8, start wetting bed again. They don't know that it could be due to an emotional problem, a psychological issue. So mental health is so important and it is so broad. So what are the other effective barriers to good care? We also talk about our level of spirituality, our beliefs, our people. Sometimes when we don't understand something, we tend to project it outside, outward, that is due to one esoteric causes or not. The grandmother, stepmother, or this person, that's the one that is causing problems. Whereas there's a medical basis for whatever they go through. So when people eventually do fall ill, this spirituality, what they believe, come into, and that's why we talk come into being. That's why we talk about the pathway to care. Because at that point in time, that person does not have the cognitive ability to make the right decision of where he or she to be taken for treatment. So it's the people around that will make that decision. So if they believe that it's caused by evil spirits, they are most likely going to take that person to a traditional herbalist or the church or the mosque, and that individual will be tied down, either beaten, because, for example, the Yorubas believe that you use cane to drive out madness from people. So most times they're actually tortured, they are tied down, so much inhumane treatment that they go through in these facilities. Okay, so, and sometimes because we do not accept that mental illness most times is due to a medical illness. So these people are not accepted in the community. So once they find out that there's something going on, or go to the hospital and they come back, for example, they can chase them out of the house where they are living. And that is when we talk about the stigma and discrimination that is attached to mental illness. And that is one of the things that the theme for this year is trying to particularly address. Stigma and discrimination, because it is the belief that in this part of the world, we still believe that, for example, is contagious. Then most people that have mental illness, they can be violent, they will be violent and all that. So nobody wants to associate with them. And we must also remember that stigma can be personal, self and outward. from the people that we deal with. For example, we that we are mental health, particularly medical doctors that are psychiatrists, we are also stigmatized. So that is a done deal. Anywhere you go, once you say you're a psychiatrist and your colleagues like you, that all of all the disciplines in medicine, why did you end up with psychiatry, you know? So anyway, so stigma, discrimination, all these, even the person himself or herself, when the symptoms is starting, you know, they think that they understand what I'm going through. And because they feel people will not understand, they don't even speak out. And the symptoms will continue to get worse. And that's how you see them. They continue to, they say they are fasting, they are praying, they don't want to go to work. Instead of them to just tell the significant others around them all the abnormal beliefs and all the abnormal feelings that they are having. So these are barriers. So you can imagine how long it will take before they can access effective medical care. I've talked about lack of knowledge. So, and of course, we now talk about, are there enough facilities for treatment in our community? You know, we do know that there are 8 psychiatric facilities in Nigeria, regionally established, 8. Our population, we're over 200 million. And sometimes we cater for people even outside Nigeria. And I believe that we are supposed to have psychiatric units in all the federal medical centers and all the general hospitals. But we try to look at what is actually available in all these hospitals, medical centers, second level, that is general hospital. I think there are just 16 of them that actually cater for that have mental health facility. So you can imagine there is the centers, the facilities are not available. Then let's talk about the personnel. So how many psychiatrists do we have in the country? How many psychologists? How many psychiatric nurses? How many social workers? Psychiatric social workers, occupational therapists. Occupational therapists are so significant. They're so important in psychiatric rehabilitation. And how many do we have in the country? So even the little that we have, they are now jackpotting out of the country. So you can imagine. So we don't have enough facilities, inadequate manpower. Then, of course, this fact that patients and their relatives have to pay out of pocket. So it is, even if they have to go to private clinic, the treatment is so high, the cost of treatment can be enormous sometimes that they can't afford it. So, and that's why we talk about the legislation. That is what the human rights for this year is saying, that mental health is a universal human right. So the human right part of it is to make legislation that can be, is there a way that the government can come in? Can they subsidize the medication? We know that in the federal hospitals, their treatment is already subsidized. But, you know, can they go further, subsidize medication? Can there be regulations that, you know, will help this individual? We know that it's a relapsing illness. For example, on our NHIS, admission for psychiatric patients, I think it's just 3 weeks. So you can imagine, is 3 weeks enough? So if the person has not recovered, are you talking about substance use disorder patients? Then they will have to leave. So the amount of money that is actually earmarked for mental health is quite small. So we need to do more advocacy and let the government know that what is going on. Because if the treatment, the cost is so high, then the relatives, mind you, these people sometimes cannot work. And we do know that mental health, mental illness can cause the shift in social level. If they were all high up there at the beginning of the illness, because it's always, you know, reoccurring, relapsing, they keep going down, shifting down the social ladder. And at the end of the day, they end up being at the mercy of their relatives. And of course, we have to talk about what are the treatments in our facilities, what kind of treatment management are available. Is it humane? Can it be improved on the environment where these patients are treated? Then of course we need more staff, we need more personnel, mental health care team, we need more. All these are, I think if we can address all this, putting into, for example, what we are doing today is education. So we need to let people know, do more of this, not just once a month. Do it on the radio. People listen, so many people listen to radio. I know that the hospital also goes to a radio station once a month too, but I think we just need to do more. Wherever we find ourselves, let's know the correct information, and dish out appropriate information to everybody we meet. We might not be able to make a diagnosis, but the best that we can do is direct them to where to go. They can always come into any psychiatric facilities around them. So the facilities must be accessible, must be close to them. We need the fact that we don't have community psychiatry is also a major barrier to accessing good treatment and care. So the laws are there, but they are not being implemented. So it must be implemented if we want a change to remove the barriers to care for our clients. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Akinola. And so when we are talking about rights, we must understand what are the barriers to this rights, because if the barriers are not taken away, then people won't enjoy their rights. So even when the mental health law is passed, the mental health bill is passed and it's not implemented, there is a problem. Implementation is also now a challenge. And she had revealed out to us quite a lot of things. Please, let's keep our questions and comments coming in. We'll be able to take them. Dr. Yegbeni, thank you for that comment about mental health as human right, labeling in the workplace, bullying, and other things like that we know. And that's why we are providing this education so that people become more aware that even when you have mental health diagnosis, you can still function, you can still live, you can still find acceptance everywhere you find yourself. We apologize once again for the issue we had earlier. It's still a problem, but we'll try and manage this time so that we don't get locked out again. But we would hope that, yes, subsequently, things like this won't happen again. But we're going to Mrs. Okay, who will also be talking to us, how can we protect our mental health? Now, with all the challenges and the problems that are there in our environment, how can we protect? You told us about the many problems mitigating against our mental. How can we protect? Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Like we can see that we have so many problems, so many factors that mitigate against our mental health. How can we protect it? How can we maintain our mental health, promote our mental health? One, we must make self-care a priority. And what do I mean making our self-care a priority? One, by having enough sleep. Sleep on its own is therapy. Some people will tell you, how can I rest? How can I sleep? They have to work, I have to do this. But when you overwork yourself, overwork your brain, definitely it affects you. Getting enough sleep is very, very important. And at least between 6 to 8 hours in a day, within 24 hours. Some will tell you, some will experience maybe get a sleep early and still wake up early. What are those things that you are thinking about? What are those things that you are doing before going to bed? Those are the things you have to put in consideration for you to have adequate sleep and rest. Then balance diet. We don't need to have 10,000. We don't need to have 1 million before we can eat food that is rich in nutrients and vitamins. We can all our local food, we can bring them together, vegetables, because food that is rich in nutrients and vitamins that are essential for the body will help the body to function normally and even make the brain to function actively. So we need that. Then regular exercise. Regular exercise is very, very important. It helps us, when you exercise yourself and regular activity that you have doing, it helps us and helps to promote our mental health. We have to manage stress. We've just said a lot about stress, both in workplace, business-wise, academic-wise, everywhere there is stress. On the road, there is stress. We need to learn how to manage our stress. We can, practice deep breathing. By the time you breathe deeply and inhale in and inhale out, you get some relief. You have to do that. Then meditation, when you are managing your stress, what are the things that are on your mind? Is very important. When we're being told about what mental health, we're told that it affects both our emotions, what you think, how you feel, and your action. It triggers it. So you have to be mindful of what we're thinking. We have to limit your input on social media. Information and news that triggers anxiety in you, or can affect you negatively and will take away your sleep. We have to limit them. Limit those ones. You can walk away from that you and anxious and makes you afraid. Because anxiety frustration is a sister to depression. Before you know it, it triggers of mental. So we need to limit what we take in. Then we must stay informed like we are doing today, creating an awareness, telling us how we can know how to avoid things that can affect our mental health, the causes of mental illness, informed, and know what is going on. Seek for professional help. Seek for professional help. When we need you see some signs that are not favorable, you find that you cannot act or perform your normal activities, or you are no more in the right pleasure in doing, seek for professional assistance. Avoid substance use because it is deadly. Avoid substance use. They set boundaries. We need to set boundaries. Set boundaries for yourself. Know your limits and don't cross your limits. When you set boundaries for yourself, you know what to do, what not to do. Don't overwhelm yourself with unrealistic expectations because it will further affect your mental, it further, initiate anxiety that can lead to frustration. So avoid unnecessary, unrealistic expectation. Avoid them. Presently is not everything that you must have. Balancing your status, your financial status, everything is expensive. Look at the things that you can do. Have a preference, and that is part of your boundaries. Have a preference. Pick from the one that is needed. It's not everything that you want that is needed or that is beneficial to you. You have to look into it to avoid unnecessary stress or psychological torment. If your child is in a very expensive school and now there's increments in school fees and you think your present budget cannot accommodate it, look for another school that is still offering the same standard of academics, of education that you think your child wants at a bit or a cheaper price. That is within your limits. If you do that, we will not always be under pressure. We will not be under pressure. Then connect with friends and families. When we connect with friends and families, we share our ideas, we ventilate our mind. Whatever we are going through, you hear what other people are going through. Be able to see it and bring it down to yourself that it's like, what I'm going through is not up to this person. If that individual can cope, then I should be able to cope. Develop a strong willpower that will make you be able to manage any crisis that comes your way. Tell yourself it's not the end of the world. Whatever you are passing through, you are not the only one in it. Let's learn to practice gratitude. When we practice gratitude, it helps us to be able to think of good things, the good old days, and be able to tell us it can always get better. So be kind to yourself. With this, we'll be able to protect our mental health. Avoid friends that you know will not benefit you, your emotional bank. There are some friends that you need to withdraw and discard. Some friends that you know that will impact you positively. Then at your workplace, if you feel that you are not satisfied with your present job, if your business is not doing well, bag extra skills. This world is full of package. You can package your business or market. You can bring in another product that will still sell, that will make you stay in business. With that, we will be able to maintain a balanced health, a holistic. You'll be able to go back and sleep and have peace of mind. So with this, we'll be able to avoid overwhelming ourselves with unexpected or unrealistic issues and be able to maintain our mental state. Families that there is pressure of a particular male child, a particular self, you don't need to overwork yourself because of that. Look at those who don't even have any and they are still doing well. Then you tell yourself, whichever one God gives you, it's okay. And that is when you'll be able to practice gratitude. So we should limit all this stress, things that will take in, that we know will impact us negatively, things that will take your sleep away, that will not allow you to even have a balanced mental state. If we're able
It
to
is
put all
okay.
these
I will
into
have to
practice,
break you
I want to
here.
be.
It's okay. Thank you. I'll have to break you
Thank
here because of
you.
our time. Thank you so very much. That was beautiful. But you know, one thing that she said that struck me so much is not everything that you want is needed. So you must make clarification. And I think that is the take home for me. No, not everything that is wanted is needed. So it's not everything that you want that you need. So please, you must be able to make that clarification. Ojala Day, Oluranti, they had responded to your questions about admission. What Dr. Akiola was talking about was NHIS, but in Yaba, we do 2 months. The medical director has also responded that we have what we call the short stay and then a long stay. But if peradventure, even after the long stay, if you still need further hospitalization, then you still pay. That's what it is like. Dr. Yegbeni, you will have to make clarification on the committee. Is it Yaba committee or the federal government committee? Dr. Akiola will be able to take that while she's taking her last contribution for us today. Again, somebody sent a comment about the fact that what is the proportion of psychiatrists. So I think Dr. Akiola had said that even when it's like 4-1, it's still not even sufficient. But Dr. Akiola, while you'll be taking your last question, I want you to just quickly look at the question Dr. Professor Badru sent in. What are the rights and obligations of the patient diagnosed as mentally sick using any nosological tools, the rights of their relatives and family members? Please, can you combine that for us because of our time? And then we'll begin to look at how do we create more awareness psychologically in terms of the topic of conversation for today. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. So, I mean, that is what the human rights, the theme for this year, and of course, the Mental Health Act that has been signed into law. So the rights of the patients, the relatives, they're all stated there. So the basic thing is the patient has a right to be treated in the best possible facility. You know, nobody should be tied down. You should not be beaten. And if you say you don't want this treatment anymore, then you can say you want to leave. But so we are still waiting for the implementation. But one other important fact is that for anybody to undergo mental health treatment, you must sign consent. And any investigation, whatever has to be done on you, there must be consent by the patient, not just on behalf of the patient. So these are rights. The patient must be there, cognitively able to give consent to whatever that you want to do for them. And the relatives too. If you say you don't want to stay in the facility, you have a right. So everything is stated in the Mental Health Act. But what we are waiting for right now is the implementation at each level in each facility so that we know what to do. And as to Dr. Ayegbeni's question, the committee that is supposed to enforce, that's in inverted commas, if that person cannot make the decision or the patient is refusing admission, but admission is needed because that patient is a danger to self and to others. So a committee is supposed to be set up. I think we are all waiting for that committee to be set up in Abuja so that we now know how we will implement this Mental Health Act. So your question, Moderator Ma, that what are the actions, some actions that we can take, if I get you right? Madam Moderator, I can't hear you.
All right, yes, ma'am, that's a question to create awareness. What are the things to create more awareness in terms of what we need to do? How we need to create that balance? Okay,
so I think I've answered part of it, and that is we must implement this Mental Health Act. We need to implement it. We need to give information. People need to know that what are their rights. The most basic right is that they must have access to the proper facility with the rights personnel, qualified personnel to attend to them, and in a humane manner, not under coercion. They should not be tied down. They should be, if they are going to prove to be stubborn, you do chemical restraints. So these are all the things that once they can implement this act, then the life of everybody will be made better. I believe so, particularly our patients and of course their relatives. And like I said earlier on, we must also implement community psychiatry. We can't go on this way, because the important thing, one of the legislation about human rights is that there must be inclusion of these people in the community. And the only way we can do that is when we have a community psychiatric facility there, so that personnel actually know families, know people. They go in, you can go into homes, see what is going on there. They can treat them right in their home, or at the end of the day, they can take them into the facility in the community. And of course, it will be easier to do education regularly when the facility is right there in the community. And of course, the money to get there, transportation, you can imagine how much clients are spending on transportation alone. So eventually when they get to Yaba, they come outside on the way. This radio personality talks about third Lagos, fourth Lagos, fifth Lagos, all the people living in the outskirts of Lagos. You know how much it costs them to come in before they can get to Yaba, before they can get to Oshodi, before they can get to Lut. These are all the facilities and Ikeja. So if this psychiatric community psychiatry is started right there, all they need to do is throw in, maybe 2 streets away. It will be easier to bring them, and they will have access. So we need more staff. We need the implementation of this. And one other thing, like we are doing education, we talk about it. Then we must teach people coping skills, the ability to learn when things happen, because things will happen. Life is not always smooth sailing. So that's the ability to be able to develop resilience. Nobody's born with it. So we all learn it, and we must teach our children, and we adults too must learn it. So the ability to bounce back from adverse events, trauma. So we must teach people these coping skills. And above all, we must let people know that they must seek for help on time. You see, we all know when there's something wrong with somebody. It's like a newborn baby, and the child is growing. The neck is not controlled at 3 months. This baby cannot sit down at 6 months. The baby is not crawling. 1 year, 1.5, the baby is not talking. We all know that there's something wrong, but is it that we are shying away from it? We are afraid to hear the diagnosis, or sometimes women can just be helpless. They don't know where to go for assessment of that baby. So I think continuous education everywhere and anyhow that we're going to do this. Wherever the mental health team will find ourselves, always make a case for mental health. You have to talk, you have to attend any meeting. Let's ask for an opportunity to be able to talk. And let's tell people, seek for help early. It is better to know. It's better to go for assessment and they tell you that there's nothing wrong, rather than keeping that child or that individual in the house and the person will continue to get worse over time. And we must always remember, we are not alone. Having access to good mental health care is everybody's right. Good mental health. We are human beings, so we have mental health, so we must maintain it. So let's
thank you.
Thanks to ourselves. Thank you very much.
Cut because of our time. Mrs. Marvin, okay, please, can you just, in 1 minute, please, in 1 minute, our time is rolling out. In 1 minute, can you just share your thoughts in how to raise awareness? Thank you, Mom. Mrs. Marvin, in 1 minute. Hello, is she there? Okay, while we're waiting for her, Olubenga Koka, thank you. Mental health is a universal right for every, yes, it's a right for everyone. Elvis is saying, I agree
yes,
with the
we need to educate the family.
Okay. All right, go on, ma'am.
Yes,
go on.
Taking it down to the community. All right, thank you. Taking it down to the community
in
by
1 minute, please. 1 minute.
Creating awareness by educating the community about prevention, causes, and promotion of mental health. Then the media creating content that talks about mental health promotion. Then school programs, we need to inculcate mental health into the curriculum of school that will help those younger ones, students, be able to cope with whatever, coping, teach them learning and coping strategies. With this, to be able to help them to be able to, overcome. Then community events, create events, campaigns, exhibitions, work that will promote mental health. Then we can use celebrities also, to bring the message down and affluence those that have influence in the community to bring the message down to our people in the community and the society. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so very much. I know time and every other thing seems to be working against us, but we made the best of it. Thank you so very much, Dr. Akiola. Thank you so very much, Mrs. Marvis. Thank you too for being on this call with us today. I agree with you, Elvin. Everybody needs to adjust their economic resources to meet up with this time. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. And again, Olubenga, yes, I agree with you. Mental health is charity that begins from home. It begins with you. You are a vanguard. Everybody must begin to play their role and do their part. Once again, we apologize on behalf of the medical director and the Yaba Voice team. This is not us. We don't know what happened, but we know that usually we come up with a good outing, but this just happened today. So we are very, very sorry. Next month, by the grace of God, we're looking at psychological well-being of adolescents and youth, a priority. And if you remember where we started from today, we started with adolescents. We were talking about them fully next week. And until we come your way again, please, if you did not hear or you know somebody that needed to listen to this, head over to our YouTube page, Yaba Voice, One Voice, FMPHY, Yaba Voice. You would get this recording as well as other recordings there. Until we get your way again, thank you so very much for joining us. Bye-bye. Thank you, Dr. Akiola, Ms. Okemavis. Thank you so very much. We appreciate you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Bless you. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for the opportunity, sir. Yes, sir.